Guess I'm not that good.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2004 Resident Evil sequel, Resident Evil Apocalypse. The film is directed by Alexander Witt, written by Paul W.S. Anderson, and stars once again Mila Jovovich. We have Sienna Gilroy, we have Eric Mabius, Oded Fair, we have Jared Harris and Mike Epps. Right, okay, so this is a sequel to the Resident Evil film that I reviewed recently on the channel. This time round, you get a recap of what happens in the first film, and then we meet Alice, who is essentially walking the streets of Raccoon City after it is being ravaged by the zombie virus. So they are trying to evacuate people from the city, but it's starting to get out of hand. So the Umbrella Corporation, in their wisdom and general arseholiness, decide to shut the gates so that nobody else can get out, and they basically leave a lot of citizens to fight for themselves and quite a few of their own people behind enemy lines to try and survive themselves, including Jill Valentine, some Umbrella officers, as well as Alice. So they've got to kind of basically try and stay alive. They are contacted by Jared Harris's Dr. Ashford, who pleads with them to rescue his young daughter who's still in the city, and if they do that, he will then make sure they get off the island out of Umbrella's Raccoon City. But there is a new experimental zombie on the streets, the Nemesis, and he is also very keen to take out everybody in his path. Right, what are my thoughts on Resident Evil Apocalypse? Well, as I said when I reviewed the first one, Resident Evil, I couldn't remember if I'd seen the second one. Now, after watching it, it does look fairly familiar, this. I do remember watching it a long time ago, but I'd forgotten a great deal of the film. The main things I remember is them kind of, locking the gates and shutting everybody in the city. And Nemesis, the Nemesis project, because I remember being quite impressed with that. But much of everything else I kind of forgot, to be honest. It probably felt quite a generic kind of action stroke horror when I first watched it. And to be honest, I think that's a fair assessment. It is, a fairly generic action horror. It is this time focused even more on action now than even the first one. But to its advantage, it doesn't take as long to get going, this one, as the first one did. I thought the first one really struggled for the first 45 minutes until basically, it's a Resident Evil film. So surprise, surprise, the film picks up when the zombies turn up. Whereas you kind of get that straight away here for the most part after the recap, the city's in turmoil, there are zombies charging about. And to say that, that there are zombies everywhere, running ragged and causing chaos, the film strangely decides not to really focus on that so much. It focuses on the survivors like Alice and Jill Valentine, who makes her appearance in this film for the first time, and others, sort of thing. And it seems like the zombies are just there when they need a scare, a quick scare, like someone opens a door and there's one there trying to chomp on you, or that sort of thing, and a licker turns up and it feels a little bit forced, that scene. It was just really a way to get Alice introduced into the movie, sort of thing, being all badass, driving her bike through a window, sort of thing. So it felt like the zombies were really just filler to lead us to an action scene. Which is fine if you actually acknowledge the fact that this film is essentially an action film. It's heavy on action and light on horror. I never really felt like the main characters here. I mean, to say they've been locked in this city, with probably millions of zombies, and the usual, the government or somebody's going to drop a bomb on the city soon. I never really felt like the main characters here were in any real threat or danger. I mean, you've got Alice, who is even more of a badass in this one because she's been experimented on even more after the end of the first one. So she's some kind of, superwoman. She's like a female version of Captain America. She properly kicks ass. And the only time there was ever really, I felt, a threat on the screen was when Nemesis turned up. And I thought he was done very, very well. I'll always remember playing. Was it Resident Evil 2 or 3? I think it's 3. I've never been a massive follower of the games, even though I've played some of them. And I remember playing it with one where Nemesis turns up. And he absolutely scared the living crap out of me. Every time he came on screen, you crapped your pants because you couldn't kill him, basically. So you had to basically run away every time and try and get away from him. And I do think the film projected that quite well, that Nemesis really was badass. And you really needed to kind of keep out of his way. And if you don't keep out of his way, you've had it. And I thought the look of Nemesis was done brilliantly as well. I thought he looked very similar to what I remembered from the game. A very, very effective and distinctive look. So I thought that part of the film went well, even though they buggered it up at the end, I think, with the confrontation between Alice and Nemesis sort of thing. It was tamed down, in my opinion. They kind of... I think eventually kind of buggered up the Nemesis thing by the end, but initially I thought, yes, that's what we need in this. We need a bit of a threat. We need something really, really badass, and Nemesis is kind of doing that. Now, we get Jill Valentine, as I mentioned here, for the first time in the game. If you don't know who Jill Valentine is, she's a big part of the game series. She has a really, really cool intro into the film. And she seems very, very capable, and again, very, very badass. But then when Alice comes into the film it's like she's then demoted, because Alice is the one. She's the badass. You can't have two of them in the one film. It almost felt like there wasn't enough room for the both of them. And I don't really feel as though they gave Jill Valentine as a character a great deal to do in the film. Most of the time she needed rescuing, certainly by Alice and others. So I'm not even sure if she turns up in any of the other films, because I'm fairly sure I certainly haven't seen any of them after this one. But hopefully they kind of figure out what to do with Jill Valentine and maybe some of the other characters that they introduce into the franchise. Because I don't want to see, and I suspect I'm gonna, Mila Jovovich's Alice, just getting more powerful each film and getting even more badass and just kicking ass every single film. I want to see some variety, but judging by the decline in the critics' response and reviews as the series goes on, I suspect much of these films are going to be a little bit of rinse and repeat. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm looking forward to checking out the next one, because I do think the first two films, in actual fact, have been pretty solid. Not classics, but the kind of films you can put your feet up to, eat a bit of popcorn, have a drink on the side, click your brain off, and have a bit of fun with. And there's a place, I think, for films like that. They're never going to be, critics' favourites, but at the end of the day, just clearly enjoyed these films because they kept making them, so that says a lot, I think. So yeah, I'm looking forward to checking out the next one. Let me know your thoughts on the franchise as a whole and the next one that I've got to look forward to. What are your thoughts on that one? And I will of course be back with plenty more content on the channel very, very soon.